welcome everyone. I'm Giulia Cittadini. I'm Senior Advisor at the European Geothermal Energy Council. And today we're going to have this dedicated webinar on the risk in geothermal investment. The idea is to look at some best practices, some examples to then eventually replicate them in other countries. And we are speaking about Hungary, Croatia, Italy, Portugal, Spain, and Slovenia. And this webinar is organized within the framework of the European funded project, GreetGeo. And Tomislav, the project coordinator, is going to present you the project itself. We thought about 2 hours of first presentation and then discussion. So we will have enough time to then deep dive into this topic. Just quickly showing the agenda, what we're going to discuss today. So indeed, Tomislav, project coordinator for GreetGeo, is going to introduce you to this project. Then we are going to move forward with some examples of the risking schemes in France with Christian Boissavi. Then we are going to move to Germany with Maria Welzen, and then to Hungary with Attila Kupius. After this, we're going to then start a roundtable discussion, and Philippe Dumas is going to moderate this part. And finally, we are going to end with the wrap up and next steps. So, without any further ado, I will present you to Tomislav, who is going to indeed talk about the GreetGeo project. Tomislav, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Julia, very much for your kind introduction. Let me just share the presentation. Okay, hopefully you can see my screen and the presentation. I would like to greet you all and express my gratitude to welcome you in this large number on this workshop webinar on this important topic. My name is Tomislav Đurić. I come from Energy Institute Hrvoje Požar. We are project coordinator of this European project called GreetGeo, or Green Transition with Geothermal Energy. And this is just one of webinars, of workshops in a series that will allow stakeholders to learn more about important topics regarding geothermal projects development. Let me just briefly introduce my institution. We are a national institution owned by the Republic of Croatia, but fully self-financed through projects and services delivered to the public sector. We also work with the industry and the international organizations. Our work includes scientific research in the energy field. We provide support to public authorities and advisory service across domestic and international markets. These are just some of the projects that we have been involved in. So we work with international institutions, leading energy companies, and many EU projects that are aimed for the energy transition at national and international level. So at the Institute, we cover the full energy system, from energy statistics and market analysis to climate and energy planning, renewable energy and environmental protection. We work on power grid development also, regulation and so on. We are providing integrated support to national authorities and industry for geothermal development and other energy-related projects. just a quick overview of the highlights of the projects that we have been involved in. We have been involved in geothermal energy from 1998. The colleagues from Energy Institute have highlighted the initial state of the art in Croatia regarding geothermal energy until today. So we have been involved in many different kind of strategies, projects, and so on. So let me just introduce you with the GreetGeo project. So we are at half of project right now. The project is coordinated by my organization. Total budget is 1.5 million euro for these purposes. And the key objective is to support the development of less developed regions by unlocking the geothermal potential. So what we are planning to achieve through this interregional cooperation, we plan to achieve collaboration between local stakeholders, between scientific institutions and industry. So the project connects several European regions from the Pannonian Basin and to the outermost regions, to the outermost islands of European Union, like Azores or Canary Islands. So each of those regions are facing different challenges and different regulatory environment. We have 10 partners altogether working on this project, and they include regional development agencies, research institutions, and provide strong technical policy and local expertise. We all know that geothermal energy has a large untapped potential in Pannonian Basin, but of course on the volcanic islands. It is clean and baseload renewable energy with high efficiency. It is applicable to different types of energy, like electricity, heating, cooling, or agricultural. And it has a high capacity factor with less land use. So some of the key barriers to the geothermal scale-up include high capex and exploration risk, complex and fragmented regulation permitting, lack of qualified workforce, insufficient political support, low public acceptance, and so on. And with this GreetGeo project, we aim to address all these barriers through innovation, through S3 roadmaps, and de-risking tools. So first, what we aim to increase investment in geothermal energy in less developed regions, such as Croatia, Hungary, Slovenia, and on Europe's volcanic islands. Secondly, we work on building innovation-based value chains by connecting research, industry, and local communities and stakeholders. Thirdly, we will support regional smart specialization strategies by helping regions to define their geothermal niches. Also, we will help partners to prepare real fundable project concepts and provide guidance for applications to different funding schemes. So we are in the finishing phases of stakeholder mapping and market analysis, where we are going to identify potential partners, investment opportunities, and create international geothermal stakeholder database. Next, we will work on development of regional S3 roadmaps that will help regions to design their geothermal strategies that are aligned with their local needs and potential. So also we will have two pilots, one in deep, one in shallow geothermal. These pilots are not technical, but more like innovation ecosystem pilots, and with the goal to work with regional stakeholders to identify barriers, to map value chains, and to test how policies, cooperation models, and business approaches can support geothermal development. So through those pilots, we are going to use the results for S3 based roadmap and future investment preparation for the regions. Also, we will prepare business cases and financing models for application for EU funding. Finally, we will have a lot of opportunities for education, for stakeholder education, just like this event, through both online and on-site events, webinars, trainings, even site visits in order to promote best practice in use. So this is one activity that we are currently finalizing. It is activity in work package 2, geothermal stakeholder database. So we have mapped more than 500 stakeholders in 2 value chains, in deep and shallow geothermal. So we have pinpointed all those stakeholders into categories and subcategories so that you can or someone who has interest in can easily locate and find stakeholder or some provider of service that you need for your project development. This tool will be online and it will be accessible to all who has interest in it. And you can filter by words or by some expressions, so you can easily find the service that you are looking for. So we have identified 380 deep geothermal stakeholders and almost 200 shallow geothermal stakeholders, and they are dispersed into all of the Europe. Moving on to the second activity, we have conducted international stakeholder survey across all the countries mentioned before. We covered both deep and shallow geothermal value chains. And we have targeted SMEs, public authorities, research institutions, industry association, and so on, in order to better understand stakeholder needs, barriers, innovation capacity, and investment condition in each region. So this result will directly help and identify gaps in regulation, financing, and all other topics, and are going to be used for the pilot activities. So far we have collected more than 170 answers. So deep geothermal has slightly more responses than shallow. And these are just a glimpse, just an overview of initial mapping of stakeholder. So the highest concentration of responses comes from Hungary, Croatia, Italy, and even from the outermost islands of Azores. On the right, you can see this is still work in progress, so the data is still not verified. It has to be fine-tuned, but the idea is to have many indicators, graphs, and different domains that will show us where are the gaps and potentials for the development. Regarding the stakeholder survey signals, what we have received from the survey, it is clear that there is strong interest in cooperation. So all of the stakeholders are really looking forward to mutually and cross-regionally collaborate. Also, there is clear need for financial de-risking because the majority of the stakeholders ask for incentives, guarantees, risks, sharing schemes, and so on. Also, what is very important is regulatory simplification and different risk profiles are present for deep and shallow. So in deep geothermal energy projects, high capex and geological risk is some of the problem. While on the shallow, there are different kind of challenges like initial cost, also awareness, workforce, or regulation. And of course, there is also a gap in skills and capacity in workforce, skilled workforce, drilling expertise, and municipal technical capacity. Regarding Croatia, just a glimpse overview of the current state of the art in Croatia regarding the geothermal project development. So we have many activities going on lately due to de-risking project program from Croatian Hydrocarbon Agency with 6 ongoing projects for de-risking of DHS district heating system in several cities. Also, EEA grants that were active until recently led to 13 new exploration fields. Energy Institute Hrvatske Požar was involved in this project. We were technical partner. So the overall picture is in Croatia now quite I would say positive, but there is also a lack of finalizing the project. We have identified the potential and identified the project, but now the next step is to finalize them, to drill the wells and to connect them and use them in appropriate way. And lastly, majority of the stakeholders that were surveyed expressed interest in joining future activities of GreetGeo projects, such as this one, workshops, trainings, or networking events. So I will also kindly ask you if you are interested in joining us, you can do so by scanning this QR code or this link shown here and leaving your data to us, and you will be then directly called and invited for future events. Of course, you will receive the presentation afterwards, so you don't have to worry about scanning the QR code now. So that's it from me, and Julia, I'm back to you. The floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Tomislav, for this presentation of the project. Now we can move to the first de-risking scheme that we are going to look at, which is the French one. And I'm giving the floor to Christian. You should be able to see the slides.
Thank you, Julia. So I'm going to present you the risk mitigation system in France as it was before and as it is at the moment, and the possible developments. So if we go to the next slide, you know that when doing deep geothermal operation, we are looking for a large quantity of groundwater and as hot as possible. And we know that the deepest we are, the highest the capex are. So it's really the main problem. And to be successful, we need a couple of things: a good flow rate and a good temperature. Usually, we can see that the temperature is not difficult to attain because more or less the gradient maps are precise. But regarding the flow rate, it's another question. So I would say that the main item to be covered by all the RMS system in geothermal are related to this couple, but with a special attention to the flow rate. And if we go to the next slide, I will show you why the geothermal result in Paris are so good. So you see a very old map built 50 years ago, and you see the red stars are the oil and gas well drilled around Paris, and you see that beginning of the 60s we have a very good geological knowledge of the geological condition, and in particular the Dogger carbonaceous formation used to produce oil also. And if we go to the next, you will see that if we have a look to the existing deep wells in France and the seismic campaign, you see that everything is concentrated on the two main sedimentary basin, the Paris one and the Aquitaine one, and also the southern part of France. And the geothermal wells have been drilled in those zones. Why? Because we had a very good knowledge of the underground conditions. And if we go to the next one, you see that the success rate we have got the last 40 years are depending on the geological knowledge. I show you the Île-de-France map, and you see that on this camembert, you see the success in green. You see that we had more, including success and partial success of geothermal plants. We will have between 90 and 95% of success rate. And if you look at the other part of France, the rest of France on the right side, you see that here the failures are nearly one fourth of the geothermal drilling attempt. And following to the next one, that's the reason why now the French government, supported by ADEME and BRGM, launched new seismic campaigns in the zone. We have to acquire a little bit more knowledge about the depth and the presence of the potential geothermal reservoir. That has been done in the Paris area, because the western part was not so well known, and the temperature is less compared to the eastern part, and also in the Bassin de l'Arc, which is in the region in between Aix-Marseille and the Étang de Berre. So you see that it's really, before doing deep geothermal, it's really necessary to have a certain knowledge of the subsurface. And if we go to the next, so the K, we have seen that the geothermal knowledge is very important, but the key also is the risk mitigation system. And at the end, the system is based in France on the mutualization of the risk between all the plants. And we have two systems: the short-term risk, which is based on to guarantee the result in between the flow rate and the temperature in the production and injection well, and a long-term risk system, which is covering the plant when successful during 15 years when the exploitation is done of the geothermal resource. And looking at the next slide, you will see that the short-term risk insurance principle are very simple, I would say. We have success if we are over 85% of success, and it's a total failure if we are under 60% of success. And it's based on the flow rate. You see that at the bottom, and the temperature. So it's something very simple. If you are above the success rate, you continue. If you are under the total failure zone, you are reimbursed. And the things are really very easy to calculate. And if we go to the next one, the acceptance of the project is done by a technical committee. All the projects are not supported if they are not only good on the technical point of view, if they are not sufficiently good regarding the economics, the financial and juridical aspect. The payment before 2024 was in between 3 to 5% as premium, and the reimbursement in case of failure, of total failure, was reaching 90% in Ile-de-France and only 65% in the other part of the country. Why? Because the state, through the ADEME, was giving a covering of 65%, and the Région Ile-de-France was alone in the country to give a complementary support of 25% to reach those fatidic 90%. And what we have seen is that below this type of number, it's very, very difficult to encourage private investment in geothermal because the risk is too important. And if we go to the next one, I will shift to the long term. So you see on the left of the figure, the part covered by this long-term risk insurance system. In general, the two wells for sure, the heat exchanger, because sometimes the heat exchanger is an important part because we know that all this water coming from deep reservoir are salty, so corrosion is an issue. So the long-term risk cover the well, the materials, and specific equipment, the geothermal loop, including the pumping equipment, and also the quality of the geothermal resource established at the origin with test. And if we go to the next one, so the principle of the long-term risk system is that if you have not subscribed before the short-term risk, you will not be received. Before 2024, the annual cost for this insurance was around 50,000 euro per year, and the fund was at the equilibrium. So if we go to the next, I would insist on the things that we've seen, that we need a good geological knowledge first. We need a risk mitigation system to embark the private investment and the possible financing of the project by the banks. But we need also to be supported, because if we compare we know all that the competitor for geothermal in Europe is gas. So ADEME put in place since 2006, if I'm not wrong, a system of subsidies to encourage the people to shift from gas to geothermal. And the idea was to get a competitive price of geothermal regarding the gas price. So that lead to a heat fund which finance generally in between 20 and 30% of the geothermal plants. So you see that it's a combination of those two things, the risk mitigation system and also a subsidy to compete with gas. And if we go to the next, you will see an idea of the result of the old fund. So you see that we are not talking about big money. We are talking about resources and expenses at 24 million euro. You see that there is a public participation at 47, a private one because of the fees by the developer at 53. So we are really in a PPP system with an advantage for all the participants. The short-term benefits at the end of the slide, you see 80 geothermal wells covered, 7 failure, partial or total, and 5 payment to cover extra cost. But okay, it's a detail. And for the long term, you see 34 contracts, and we are talking about 510 years of coverage and only 6 failure reimbursed. And if we go to the next, please. So just 2 numbers, the leverage effect and return for this last period. So you see that the guaranteed wells drilled represent a cumulative investment of 250 million euro. And the leverage effect is €1 financed by the state for 28 euro worth of guaranteed investment. I believe that's a very important number. And if we shift to the long term, we are talking here about 170 million euro and €1 by the state, allowing 19 euro to be guaranteed for 15 years. So you see that regarding the total amount of this fund during 12 years, we are talking about 24 million euro for 12 years. So it's really an effective system. And if we go to the next one, so I will shift to the target of the French energy program. The target was very ambitious. We start that 2020. You see at that time 1.6 terawatt hour, and the plan was to go to 45 successful operation and maybe 70 in case following the peak scenario. Just to give you an idea of what we want to go, so it's a multiplication at the minimum by 2.5 times of the geothermal production coming from the geothermal. And on the next slide, you see the last evaluation of potential development, including drillers' expectation and contract. So you see that the curve is going to 2028. So you see that we are really in a good mood. We were talking about 2020, and at that time we had about 70 plants, and we plan to have in 2028 more than 100 anyway. And on the next slide, I will come to the fund now working. It is nearly the same fund. It has been to be approved by the DG competition in Brussels. So you remember, I told you that the reimbursement were 90% in Ile-de-France before. Now it's extended to all the territory. So the ADEME is reimbursing in case of failure 90%. And we try to establish 3 different segments in the fund corresponding to increasing geological and hydrogeological risk. I would say that if it is not so risky, it's like an insurance. It is not so risky, you pay a small fee. If it is more risky, you pay a bigger fee. And for example, we are talking now, the segment was very simple. follow up with Dogger operation in Paris Basin. Everything is well known. So we have a percentage of risk for the first well of 5%, 9% for the second. And you see that in the segment 2, when the geology is known, but not the geothermal potential, we are talking about other zone compared to Paris Basin. So here we have a percentage of success of only 25% of failure of 25% on the first one, 45 on the second, and for the segment 3. So we are talking here about new operation in other region where geological and geothermal potential are not known. So here the percentage of success is at, of failure is at 40 on the first well and 67 on the second one. And if we go to numbers on the next one, so you see that now in this new fund in force since 1.5 years now, the studies are subsidized at 50%. The geophysical studies are also covered at 80% in case of failure of your plant, your drilling operation. We have a guarantee base of 3 million euro per kilometer drilled, with a limit of 3 kilometers. So we don't want to cover too deep geothermal well. The scope is based on the 2 wells of the doublet, and you see that the premium is moving from sector 1, very low at 5%, sector 2, 10, and sector 3 with high risk at 50%. So you remember now the coverage rate at 90%. And you remember I talk about the HEAT fund. We have also subsidies to finance not only the wells, but also the potential district heating system to be installed or revamped. And I told you already that the average of those subsidies was around in between 20 and 30%. And if we go to the next one, maybe the last one, I already told that. So you need a strong management with a decisional committee. The geothermal expertise is achieved by the Geological Survey of France, the BRGM. And to monitor the fund, we have only one big meeting per year by a strategic committee. So you see that don't need a strong organization at the end. Everything has to be light and quick. And if we go to the next one, the conclusion. So the total budget of the new fund, because we want to drill more in France, is around 1 million euro. Already 45 million euro are mobilized. It is only devoted for heating purposes. We are not talking about lithium extraction or electricity production. There is no big change for the long-term risk system, except the premium increased at 25 kilo euro per year. And what is the target is just to multiply the number of geothermal operations outside the Île-de-France region and develop deep geothermal potential in green fields. And I believe this tool, this RMS system, is the only way to achieve this goal. And I thank you very much for your attention.
Great, thank you. Very interesting, Christian. Let's now move to Germany with Maria. Let's keep the question for the second part of this webinar.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Hope that is working. I think that's working.
Yes.
So this way. Okay. Thank you very much, first of all, for inviting me and to participate in today's workshop and having the opportunity to present a bit about the current status of de-risking schemes in Germany. Well, my name is Maria Uelzen. I've been working for a company, Roland Partner, for the last almost 20 years now in the field of renewable energies, and with a focus on deep geothermal energy projects. And I'm also heading the team regarding public subsidy consulting. So this fits quite well with the topic of de-risking schemes. So Roland Partner, we are a professional service company offering business, legal, tax advisory, auditing services, working with like about 6,000 employees basically all over the world. And for more than 20 years already, we've been involved in advising our clients in the development of geothermal projects. In this regard, quite often with a focus on the financing needs. And this is usually linked to some kind of public incentive, public support schemes. So I'm not going into detail here. And since the very beginning, we've been involved here in the context of the development of risk mitigation schemes, starting back then with the first private enterprise insurance developed in cooperation with Munich Re at that time. And since then, we've developed a whole bunch of schemes in Europe, Latin America, Indonesia. And for more than 10 years, we are also the assigned fund manager for the geothermal risk mitigation facility in Africa. But that's it for the introduction. So taking a look on the status of Germany. So we do have quite a number of subsidy programs in Germany that also include deep geothermal energy among other technologies. So here we do have three examples, or the most common projects on a federal level. In addition to these, there are also some programs at state level, but I think this would be too extensive for today. So these three are the most relevant ones. Unfortunately, no breaking news today for the new scheme that we are all waiting for Germany. But at the end of presentation, I will just have some basic information, what's probably coming up in 2026. So all of these three schemes are focused on heat projects. So none of them include power projects in the funding scheme. This is mainly due to the fact that they are still a feed-in, quite attractive feed-in tariff for power generation in Germany. And of course, the focus is here more on the heat transition challenges that we are currently facing. None of these schemes is basically implemented only for geothermal, but geothermal is always included as an option. So the three main programs that we have. So the first one is the EEW, in German Energieeffizienz in der Wirtschaft. It's the energy efficiency in the economy. And then we have an energy research program, and we have the BEW. So this is the federal support scheme for district heating network. And this is our main focus with regards to deep geothermal energy. So all of them come with a different focus. So the EEW, this is really focusing on the economy. It's focusing on process heat. So it comes with the requirement that at least 50% of the energy must be used for process heat. The remaining 50% can be used for heating networks. So this is always an option. It's a grant or loan-based program, so you have the choice. It comes with a maximum of 20 million and a funding rate depending on the size of the company. We had quite a change in this program last year regarding the basis of the investment costs. This funding rate is applied to, changing from additional investment costs or compared to fossil fuel plant. And now the new base is the overall investment volume related to the production facility. Also, feasibility study can be financed in this regard. In case of geothermal, so in case of an unsuccessful drilling, this grant would still be paid. However, if there is an insurance solution in place, this insurance would be deducted from the grant, so this can't be combined. So this is quite a disadvantage of this program. The Energy Research Program, just as the name says, it's a research program. We are focusing on demonstration and pilot projects, so focusing on less developed areas. So if you take a look at Germany, for example, the Molesse Basin, of course, is not quite in the focus of the program. And comparing it to the other two, it also comes with a bit less resources and less number of projects that could be financed by the program. And the most common one, it's the BEW. So the main program regarding the heat transition, regarding district heating. And it also names deep geothermal energy as an eligible heat source. So therefore also the geothermal drillings are covered by that program. And I would dive a bit more into detail regarding the BEW. So the program is divided into several modules, basically 4 of them, but only 2 are relevant for geothermal projects. Module 3, individual measures, does not include geothermal drillings, and the module 4, operating cost funding. So this is not dedicated to the investment itself, but the operating cost funding is only possible for heat pumps or solar thermal. So not geothermal. But module 1, aiming for the studies in the first place, and the module 2, aiming at the investment costs. These are quite of interest for geothermal energy projects. Eligible for funding, so the range is quite open. Basically, everyone is eligible from private and public sector. There are almost no exclusion criteria, so this makes it quite easy to access. A bit more details about these 2 relevant modules. So module 1 is dedicated to transformation plans for existing district heating networks, helping them to decarbonize their plant structure, and as an alternative also dedicated to feasibility studies for new projects. The program comes with a minimum requirement regarding the size of the heating network that needs to be supplied, which need to be 16 buildings or 100 residential units. So no really small projects that would be included. And like regarding eligibility or eligible costs, so this would be the studies itself, and also quite a range of engineering services that are also already eligible in module 1, and it comes with a 50% grant financing up to €2 million funding limit per application. So this would be the module to start with. The module 2 then goes into the investment itself. So you can also step in also only with module 2. You don't have to apply for module 1. However, the information and the documentation that needs to be set up with module 1 needs to be submitted with your module 2 application. So in general, it makes sense to take the grant volume in the first place and then continue with module 2. It just makes the application process a bit smoother if you go for both. And in module 2, we are really now talking about the investment itself. So the geothermal drillings would be eligible for funding, but not only the wells, but it's also dedicated to the on-surface installations, such as the network itself, networks, pumps, also pressure maintenance systems. So everything basically that's needed to get the projects off the ground and get the people connected to the district heating network. The project comes with a 40% share of eligible costs. It has a second requirement, so the financing is limited to the profitability gap. So if this is lower than 40% of the eligible costs, so this would be the upper ceiling. And it comes with a maximum subsidy of 100 million euro per application, which is maybe a minor detail, the per application and not per project, but this can really make a significant difference, because if you take the sequences of the project development, you can go for an application for the wells in the first place with a limit of 100 million, and then step by step build the district heating networks, etc. So each application would come with this upper ceiling of 100 million. And the project needs to be implemented in a period of 48 months. That can be quite a challenge with regards to geothermal drilling. If you take all the application process, procurement process, mobilization, etc., and then maybe going for a doublet. However, there is a possibility of a one-time extension of additional 24 months if this is needed. So how does this and the setup of this program work with the project development phases in deep geothermal? We believe this fits quite well. So we do have the project preparation phase with the feasibility study and the preliminary exploration phase, which fits to module 1 of this program. And for example, also seismic surveys would be eligible costs under module 1. And regarding the project implementation phase, so we have the drilling phase in module 2, as well as the construction of the district heating networks and additional engineering work. All this can be included in this module 2. It's a pure grant program. It's not a question of successful or unsuccessful drillings. The grant is always being paid, no matter how successful this project is. Unfortunately, this regulation is not included in it's not included in the program itself. But the ministry responsible for the implementation of the project always clearly states that there is no need for repayment in case of an unsuccessful drilling. But that is for the existing program. So we are all waiting for more to come, and there is currently a new de-risking scheme being developed, or it has been developed already during the last 2 years. So this project was initially planned for end of 2024 already. Due to the elections at that time, it was postponed, and we are now hoping for an implementation in early 2026. So the new government clearly communicated that there is still political interest in implementing the new facility, and they still value geothermal to play a major role in the decarbonization of the heat sector in Germany. And therefore, the political will to a risk-sharing instrument is definitely existing. And already a state budget is also available and allocated to the new program. However, last information stated that they are currently going for a trial round to see how successful this new project and how large the interest of the market is regarding this new instrument is. So I don't really dare to communicate any precise figure at that moment. When preparing this new scheme, so this was initially a research program done by Fraunhofer, to which we also contributed. And the main challenges was to find a way on how we can implement a new de-risking scheme in Germany, with the option of combining this one with the existing grant-based program that we already had on the market. And basically, the solution came with the introduction of a private partner to the scheme, namely Munich Re, who's quite some time now already involved in insurance of geothermal energy projects. And by introducing a private partner, this led to the development of a state aid-free scheme, meaning that now this new scheme is possible to combine with the BEW or the EW. Doesn't matter whether we are talking about the district heating or the economy itself. So by combining the programs, we aim to de-risk a share of 90% of the drilling costs, taking a 40% share by the grant program and taking a 50% share by the new de-risking scheme, leaving the project developer with a remaining 10% share in case of unsuccessful drillings. So how shall this new scheme look like? So it's not officially launched, as I just indicated. So this is probably not the last version. The framework conditions not yet finalized or published, but the indication, I can already give you an outline. So as for the other projects as well, the new scheme will only be available for heat projects. No power projects to be supported. The basis for the insurance scheme is the heat yield. So yeah, comparable to what we heard from France already, also partial success would be insured by the new scheme. It will be a conditionally repayable loan, and the loan will be combined with discovery risk insurance, meaning that part of the risk will be taken by public funds and part of the risk will be covered by the private insurance. So we do have this public-private combination that makes it public state aid free in this specific case. A requirement to obtain the scheme is that the geographical location of the project must allow for a risk assessment. So there must be a sufficient database available already for insurance risk assessment, say like that. And we also have the aspects of premiums that need to be paid to obtain the scheme. And these premium rates will also differ between the location and the results of the risk assessment. And very likely these rates will range between 6 and 15%. So these were the latest figures we heard. So there will always be a project-specific assessment and a project-specific decision-making process until a project obtains the new scheme and can sign a grant loan contract under the scheme. That's it in short regarding the status and the outlook for the German market. And happy to be available for any remarks or questions later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Looking forward for how this scheme will look like in the end.
Yes,
I'm sure there will be questions. Maybe we'll keep them in the second part of this webinar. So now we can move to the last presentation of today, and we're going to look at the Hungarian perspective. So I'm happy to welcome here Attila for his presentation.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Well, the Hungarian de-risking scheme is not very old, so I will be fairly short, but as there are a lot of member states who would like to start this kind of risk mitigation system, it can be interesting for them how to do the first, second step when we would like to use this de-risking scheme. Well, my name is Attila Kujbus and my company is the Geothermal Express. It's a geothermal focused and Budapest focused and Hungarian focused geothermal consultant company. The next slide, please. Well, as I mentioned, this risk mitigation system is only 4 years old in Hungary. Naturally, there was a very long work to set up this system. So in the 2010, from 10 until 20, a lot of work was to review and analyze all the former and existing schemes. It was the first part of the methodology, how to set up the first stage. And naturally, the second methodology step was the cooperation with the GeoRisk project. Luckily, that time, the GeoRisk project was ongoing, and the project consortium members shared their calculations, their information, and the Hungarian ministry was glad to hear very good advices, and naturally they used up the results of the GeoRisk project. The third part of the methodology was taking into consideration the traditions in Hungary. Well, in Hungary, the geothermal is a very traditional sector. The first geothermal well was drilled in 1867. So it is almost 150 years ago in Budapest. So we have very old traditions. So naturally, the ministry had to take into consideration this background. The first stage was issued in 2021. In June, was issued the program, and the first amendment was on November, and there were small amendments later as well. However, from 21, the system was working. The fund was 6 billion Hungarian forint. It is more than 15 million euro. And the support for one project was declared between 100 and 2,000 million Hungarian forint. At that time, annually, about 7 geothermal wells were drilled in a year. However, we know that the Pannonian Basin is not very risky. So we know very well the upper Pannonian formation. So the 1,000 or 1,500 deep well is not very risky. Therefore, this support was dedicated mainly for deeper 2-3 kilometer deep wells, mainly for larger projects and deeper wells. The expected number of projects was about between 3 and 30. And the support focused only for drilling risks and not operation risk. As Christian mentioned, not long-term, short-term. It was short-term program and for only the exploration phase of the project. The next, please. The decision maker was a committee of experts. They reviewed the submitted documents and they made decisions. and the three main qualification for a well testing result was the well is appropriate for production. In this case, there was no payment. If the well is partly appropriate for production, in this case was half payment, and if the well is not appropriate for production, in this case the 60% of the cost of the well was the maximum 60% was the payment. So after disqualification, the committee made decisions about the payment. The results in 22-23 in these years worked this first stage of the system. Unfortunately, there were no many projects submitted because the drilled wells were mainly not deep enough to be very risky, and therefore there were not very many projects. As I mentioned, the shallow projects were not very risky, and yes, it was the main cause. And therefore only 5 projects were awarded, and moreover 2 of them were withdrawn by the project developer. They weren't drilled because of other financial causes. So in this case, only 3 projects were involved in this first stage, and the whole fund was not spent. So we can say that our experience is that 60% support seems to be not preferable. If a well is failed, is not successful, if 60% of the cost returns, it is very difficult to drill a new well or make this well appropriate. So this 60% seems to be not, it can naturally, it can be a good support. However, it is not very motivative for drill a new well. And the program has to be joined to a project support program. So if we support only the one drilling or the drilling, we know that it is about the half cost of the whole project. So if, for example, a municipality is not able to launch a project, the support for the first well or doublet is not motivative enough to launch a project. However, it was a positive result that this program increased strongly the technical level of the projects. So the technical plans were prepared in a much higher technical level and cautiously. So the technical level increased in this first stage. The next, please. So basically, the first stage was useful, but with the experience, a second stage was created, And the methodology was that the basis has to be the National Energy and Climate Plan, the National Energy Strategy, the Clean Development Strategy, and the Geothermal Utilization Concept. And this second stage was part of the complex program, complex support of the geothermal sector and the whole renewable energy sector. It is the Jedlik-Ányos Energy Program. Jedlik-Ányos was a Hungarian scientist who invented, for example, the dynamo 160 years ago. And he gave the name for this complex energy, renewable energy program issued by the Ministry of Energy. And the issue is planned in the next month, so very, very soon. It's a complex program for the whole renewable energy sector. The next, please. So in this second stage is an integrated part of this Jedlik-Ányos complex program. You can see the third row, mitigation of geothermal drilling risks, about 10 billion Hungarian forint. It's about nowadays 26 million euro. So we think with the other supports, it will be very useful for the developers. You can see that the development of district heating energy efficiency is supported with a serious amount. Changing district heatings on renewable basis. In Hungary, it means mainly geothermal energy. The supporting geothermal-based electricity production and geothermal interest-free investment loans. So these all kind of all the rows, all kind of supports together. We believe it will be really very supportive and motivative. And you see that the geothermal drilling risk mitigation is one part of this complex support. Well, the support for one project will be between 40 million and 1,000 million Hungarian forint. It means 100,000 and 250,000 euro. The number of projects will be between 10 and 20. It means the following 2 years about, and only, unfortunately, only the first well of the project will be supported with this kind of support. And it can't be used for pipelines and surface facility. And in this case, there is no partly successful category. So there will be no partly appropriate. The support intensity is 45 50 support for unsuccessful and 10% for the successful wells. We can see that only the first well of the project is supported and the support intensity is a bit lower than it was in the first stage. Unfortunately, the amount is not enough for supporting one project and supporting more projects. Therefore, we think later for the third stage, we will see the experience and we hope there will be more larger fund for the mitigation of the geothermal drilling risks. However, we think this second stage is a bit stronger mainly because it is integrated part of the complex support of the geothermal and renewable energy sector. So we hope in the following 2 years 10 or 20 or some project will be supported, and we hope it will be a successful second stage, and we later naturally we will see the third stage of this kind of development of risk mitigation, the geothermal drilling risks. Thank you very much. It was my short presentation for the short time of the Hungarian geothermal risk mitigation history, and we will see what will bring in the future. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Attila. With your presentation, we conclude this first part of the webinar, and now we can move to the roundtable discussion that will be moderated by Philippe. So maybe I can give you the floor for this part.
Thank you, Julia, for a nice moderation of the first hour. I hope that all participants you have been able to digest all the information after your lunch and your coffee. Now let's go to some discussions and questions. Maybe start with Christian. Christian, you remember we worked together with GeoRisk, no? And the main concept of GeoRisk was to say, let's have my right scheme for my right market, no? You say that today in France, the scheme is still mainly based on public funding, no? When do you think the market will be mature enough to go to more private funding entrants?
Yes, I believe it's depending on the risk itself. I would say that talking about the segment 1 for no risky zone, in particular in Ile-de-France region, the possibility now is open to have something comparable as the Germans are building at the moment in between the government KfW and Munich Re, for example. I believe for this type of, I would say, brownfield, it's okay. For the segment a little bit more risky, like in France, the segment 2 and 3, that's appear for the moment too difficult because the risk is still too big for private companies because we know the ratio will not be sufficient for private money to cover this type of risk. But I see really a difference in between the end of GeoRisk, that was the project GeoRisk, we as favorize the emergence of the risk mitigation system in Hungary, for example. But we are talking about 5 years ago. But during these 5 years, we have a lot of things moving quickly in Europe. We have the problematic of gas coming from Russia. And I believe now the market, for example, in Ile-de-France, it's sufficiently mature to propose very quickly now something really private.
Okay, thank you, Christian. We will come back to this issue of different levels 1 to 3, because maybe one question from the audience will be how you will move from level 2 to 3 and 2 to 1. So, but let's come back later to this question. Maybe just hear some ideas for you for further next intervention. Maria, always my question about having the right scheme for my market. Now, how do you assess today the German market? First, indeed, if we look at France, they look at Paris as a more mature market and the rest of France. How you see the situation in Germany? So do you think that you have more or less the same situation and that the current de-risking instruments in Germany is appropriate to the market? Or do you think maybe in some more mature market, we need to have more, maybe better insurance schemes, long-term sustainable, but not only grants, no? Because what we're looking for is a long-term sustainable system. And maybe in less mature market, let's go maybe to still a grant approach. So what is your view, Maria?
Yeah, it's still I believe still quite challenging also in the German market. Of course, we do have the well-known Molasse Basin where we do have a lot of drilling, we do have a lot of data available, and this will very likely help the developers to obtain the new scheme. So they do have a combination of the grant program with the loan program with the Munich Re scheme, probably with a rather low premium payment that would be applied to this kind of project. So this will probably then come with a 90% risk coverage for the drilling. However, the less developed region in Germany, so we are not quite sure yet whether this new scheme will be able to be obtained by these projects as well, because this risk assessment and now a private partner, of course, with a different perspective than the national authorities, the ministries coming with public money in. So they do have a different risk appetite. I mean, that's what we all know. I mean, someone has to take the risk. And of course, that's always, it's a political question regarding public funding, but it's a market and economic question if you take a private partner in. So there we will have to see how far we will obtain, or whether we will obtain really a de-risking scheme for these less mature markets in Germany, whether this is really an option for them to obtain this 50% loan insurance scheme. So this, I think this is still a challenge in Germany. So we have the 40% fixed. Yes, that's good. It helps for sure. But it's not sufficient to really kickstart the geothermal projects in Germany. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it will be for a second question to you, Maya. So what we should design in the future to have a more sustainable market. But not, let's go to Attila. You are also, Attila, part of this GeoRisk team. No, we work together on establishing scheme. How do you see today the Hungarian market? I see it's a question also in the chat now. What is the situation of the market? How is developing? And one question is also linked with risk insurance. Now, to assess the size of a fund, you need to better monitor how many projects will be in the basket to mutualize the risk now between the different projects. So what is today the current size of the market in Hungary? How do you see in the future the need for a larger funding, maybe for de-risking?
Well, firstly, I would like to come back to the public and private question. Well, as I mentioned a few years ago in Hungary, there were only about 8 geothermal wells drilled. However, this new Jedlikányos program will support a lot of projects, so we estimate more than 20 wells drilled in the following few years. However, it is still a small market. And in the Pannonian Basin, there are no big countries. However, the Pannonian Basin is big, and there are 8 countries in the Pannonian Basin, from Slovakia until Bosnia-Herzegovina, 8 countries. So if we could set up not a national risk mitigation scheme, but an international, for example, for the Pannonian Basin, including 8 countries, it already would be with about 100 or more wells per year. It would be very exciting for the private sector as well, not only the public resources. And as you surely remember, during the times of the GeoRisk project, we discussed a lot about a pan-European risk mitigation, geothermal risk mitigation system. It's yet only a dream, but I think in very long term, it could be a very good solution. So firstly, an international step for larger geothermal territories, for example, the Pannonian Basin. And in long term, perhaps it would be interesting, the pan-European risk mitigation geothermal system.
Thank you, Attila, for this last comment. I smile because I see we have privilege to have in the audience representative from the European Commission. I don't know if she wants to intervene, because indeed she's also writing some text for the Geothermal Action Plan, and it's something that we look at as a common interest, no, from the public and the private, to have such a pan-European de-risking scheme. Attila, for you, I will come back to in PPP, because it's important also to know who are the beneficiary of such a risk insurance scheme, because we have seen the different models. Alejandro Sciuma, I saw that you raised your hand, and I wanted to allow you to talk. Alejandro, you wanted to intervene already, which is really welcome, because indeed we have some questions in the chat, but you can also intervene already. So Alejandro, you want to speak? I give you the floor. You're muted. Luca, you want to intervene? I give you the floor, Luca.
Hello.
Yes. Oh, I see Alejandro finally could connect.
So let's start with
if you want to
Alejandro, and after Luca, yes. Alejandro, floor is yours.
Yes, I was thinking that that what we see in the market for Europe is we've been studying this for this past several years, and looking at some of the projects, we see some of the drilling rigs that are not sized properly to drill for the electricity, and we look for the electricity to drill for the electricity, and the byproduct is waste heat that we can use to heat towns or buildings, or for food production, or cooling. And what we want to know is throughout the different regions, are there PPAs in place for private companies that can come in and invest with new technology, new drilling practices that are adopted from the oil and gas industry, that have drilled thousands and thousands of wells around the world, and bring those technologies into Europe, and develop those deeper geothermal plays when we have the experience to drill those. But we have to also take into consideration the equipment that has been used historically is not the right size equipment to reach the depths of what we need. And the new equipment is more efficient than what is typically been used in Europe for some of these to drill some of these wells. And so basically what we were just asking is if we bring in the right equipment, are there countries that would enter into PPAs, the power purchase agreements for electricity, and then we also have the heat as a byproduct of the electricity.
Thank you for the question, Alejandro. I would just briefly comment, and maybe, I don't know, Christian, Attila, if you want to intervene regarding the drilling market. Yes, PPA, indeed, it's an issue, especially in countries in the European Union. You have really few countries offering a tariff for geothermal electricity. So we hope to see more schemes in the future, because it helps to have better economics of a project. Regarding the drilling industry, maybe Christian, you can start, and Attila can comment the case of Hungary. But here, just to frame, here we are speaking more about the resources, the flow rate, no, the temperature, but it's another kind of risk approach, indeed, that you need for the economics of your project. Christian, regarding the drilling industry.
Yes, I believe to follow the idea of Attila, I believe there is a problem of sizing. This year in France, we are going to drill 10 geothermal wells for about 25 kilometers. So at the moment, the drillers in France are capable to do that, but not more. And I would say that they are adapted to the depths to make district heating operation. If we think about deeper, it's a question for sure. There are not so many rigs to go deeper in Europe at the moment. There are some, but they are already, I would say, working in the Netherlands, in Germany. And I believe the offer of drillers is not sufficient if we want to go through. And if we are comparing the drilling industry in Europe, in the whole Europe, and in the United States, for example, we know that the costs are more or less double in Europe compared to the United States. Why? Because in the United States, you have the availability of thousands of rigs. And in Europe, the choice is very limited. So in my opinion, it's a little bit, at the moment, it's a little bit an egg and hen problem, because the market is too small to attract new drillers. And that's a difficulty we have to overcome. And it's not only the problem of rig at the moment, it's also the problem of drillers. So there are not sufficient good drillers working in Europe to double the drilling capacity in Europe. So that's really a sizing problem for me, because the problematic of Alessandro regarding the transfer of competency from oil and gas, it's okay. Now in France, we are drilling multi-drain geothermal wells. So we know that since a long time. So we are capable to apply this oil and gas technology, but it's a problem of number of rigs and expertise of the drillers. For me at the moment, I don't know in the other part of Europe, but for France, Netherlands and Germany, that's for sure.
Let's give the floor to Attila before giving back the floor to Atlan. So Attila, what is the case you think for Hungary?
Well, when we set up the first step of the risk mitigation system, as I mentioned, we reviewed all the existing systems, and we said that for us the most useful is the French, which is the traditional risk mitigation system, and the Dutch, that is new, not very old, but very, very practical and useful. And we think so far we set up two first step of the risk mitigation system. So I think for national risk mitigation systems, we already did that we do. So I absolutely agree with Christian that the size is very, very important. So 10, 20 wells for a private system for the private fund, it is not motivative. It's small. So it would be, as I mentioned before, a very important step forward is the internationalization to create a larger market. And inside in Hungary, now, as I presented, two different direction was created. The first was the geothermal well, in this case, the public and the private also as the market. So public, it is the district heating systems and the municipalities who would like to create town for geothermal system for a town. And you perhaps saw that for the geothermal district systems is very strongly supported. The other side is the private systems, the agriculture and industrial companies. And nowadays they are the best market, I think, because it's a fairly new market. And it is interesting there that their request, for example, temperature is very, very different than district heating systems. So we nowadays plan 180 and 200 centigrade high temperature and high pressure systems supplied by geothermal. So the deep geothermal system and shallow geothermal system by high temperature heat pumps can supply this kind of market. So the market is increasing, widening strongly. And if in this case there is no very strong underground risk, so in this case it can be a new way for the geothermal sector to widen the market. So yes, there are a lot of challenges both in the public market and the private market as well, and risk mitigation stay very important question in long term.
Thank you, Attila. I saw that it was not Alejandro, it was Tim. I hope we answer your question, Tim. Yes.
Yes. So what I was referring to in one aspect is that if we bring in the right size drilling rigs, and say we bring in 20, just for an example, and we spread them throughout Europe, so that gives the ability for all countries to be able to take a look at the deeper geothermal that satisfies both electricity, heat, and agricultural use of the waste heat from the geothermal system. And it, allows you to produce 100% base load carbon negative power, which is electricity. And then from that system, from that deeper system, you automatically get heat. So the heat is used instead of waste heat, we capture that heat, and that can go into district heating. And then from that, also same heat stream, you can use for agricultural uses 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And what we see is that when we're looking at it, is that if we bring in these drilling rigs and we have some more competition, it will actually drop the price of the cost of these wells, because we introduce more competition in between throughout all the countries. And what we're looking for is stable PPA prices with the governments or industry, and that's what we're looking for across Europe, whatever country that we're involved in, whether it be the UK or France or Germany or Croatia or Hungary or Spain or Italy. Any of the countries that we've looked at have good geothermal resources. And tapping those resources requires a little bit bigger rigs than what we've seen in the market. And with the newer technology, and that's why I'm just taking a look at to see if that's a main focal point that can be provided, and the financing can be provided by third-party financing, or we can get financing instead of using up a bunch of grants. I mean, grants are fine, but the system should be able to stand on its own.
Exactly. No, indeed.
Without grants.
It's what we are discussing, and I remember now drafting the market report every year. I think in 2013, so it was 12 years ago. I said, indeed, geothermal, we should go more to combined heat and power, as you mentioned. And what we have seen in 10 years, really few CHP, some in Germany, Maria, some in Munich area. And the main reason is that there's no PPA. So for district heating, as mentioned by Christian, there's a good development. We double the number of systems in Europe from 200 to 400 in 10 years. But for electricity, it is more challenging. I see that Luca also raises his hand. So maybe, Luca, we give you the floor now if you want to intervene.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Philippe. So my question is very specific one, and I know there is no answer, but I just want to open the discussion on that. I think the German example that Maria has guided us through as one possible setback, that is the fact that when you give a grant, generally the market tends to adapt to higher prices. And in this case, specifically, I talk about drilling, but it can be also other de-risking instruments. So have you seen anything like that in Germany, or do you expect anything like that in Germany?
No, we haven't really seen that aligned with the introduction of the subsidy program. So I can't really confirm, but of course this fears always exists, and so this is always trying to find the correct way forward. To not increase the prices in this regard, but we couldn't see a direct correlation between the program and the market prices.
Thank you.
Good. Yeah, Christian.
Yes, to complement, I have the beginning of an answer. ADEME in France is carrying out now a study to have a look to the pricing compared to the level of support of the French state for geothermal. And we have the beginning of an answer for deep geothermal. We have not seen price moving very, very quickly, I would say. The price are normal. On the contrary, for shallow geothermal, with a very strong development now in France, we have seen an increase due to the strong subsidies given by ADEME, but just for shallow geothermal. For deep, it's another question.
Yeah, I think I can confirm this one. So for the heat pump sector in Germany, we have a similar feeling, or also confirmed by figures, because there we do have a quite interesting support scheme for the private sector, and there we do have quite high prices compared to other European countries. So the problem definitely exists.
Thank you. I don't know if we have other questions. I see there's some in the chat, and we are doing the last 15 minutes of a call. So Tomislav, the question we had today is that how can we have a scheme established in Hungary, Croatia, Italy, Portugal, Spain, and Slovenia? So maybe let's deep dive more than just France and Germany, where you have established conditions. I would say for Hungary, Attila, the condition is rather established. But so what about from the panelists and the audience? What could be the right scheme in Croatia, Italy, Portugal, Spain, and Slovenia? Who wants to intervene? You were saying, Attila, that maybe Slovenia and Croatia could be in a pan-Union basin scheme. Can you elaborate a bit on this thinking, Attila? How it could work in practice?
Well, I can say that at this moment we have to launch this second stage, and it will be our main task to increase the number of drilled wells. And we can say that there is strong cooperation between in the Pannonian Basin. For example, I was in all the countries, even in Bosnia-Herzegovina. So there is cooperation. So we have to make stronger the cooperation and know each other. And we have to say that the technical questions are the same everywhere inside the Pannonian Basin. Therefore, I think we could internationally cooperate in the case of risk mitigation as well.
Okay. Maybe Christian, according to your thinking and this free-zone approach, how you will see the best approach for Italy? We've already a lot of market development in Tuscany, no? Portugal with a specific case of Azores and how about the mainland, and Spain with also the specific case of Canary Islands. So how you see in this country what would be the best scheme for de-risking project? You are muted. Christian, we can't hear you. You are muted.
Yes, sorry. So for me, I will come back. If we are looking at the risk mitigation system covering not less below 80%, and in that case, we are talking about Netherlands, Germany, France. So we see that anyway, there is a strong development. So I believe for Portugal and Italy, the main question is not heating, and for Spain in Canarias for sure. So in that case, we are looking more maybe to electricity production, and I believe in that case, if we want to go deep and to explore new reservoirs which are not yet explored, we need to have this type of coverage. Without that, on the first step, I don't see a big future. For example, in Canaria, we know that the resources are fantastic, maybe, but we have to go to drill at the end. And to drill, we need this type of coverage. If not, that will be very difficult to start. And after starting, step by step, you gain experience. After 1 well, 2 wells, 3 wells, you can make a sort of deployment close to the first well. And talking about electricity at the end, you don't need to have the consumer just close to the wells. So it's possible to transport the energy. In the case of heating, it's much more difficult. So I believe really in the country where electricity is an issue, and there is resources, we have to go to that system. And the idea to make a Pannonian scheme would be nice, but I believe the main plan, we are talking of that 20 years ago, that was the same thing, I would say. Huh? We need to have a strong support of the European Commission to complement in each country when it is necessary. So when there is already something, we can complement a little bit, but we are looking at country where there is nothing, nearly nothing. So in that case, there is a necessity to have a support from the Commission to boost the development, and that will go through the proposition of Alejandro, multiplying the number of drilling. You multiply the number of rigs, and if you multiply the number of rigs, the competition will be better in between the drillers, and you will get proper prices, I would say.
Thank you, Christian, for this analysis. I see that time is running. Do we have a last question from the audience before we conclude from the panelists? I see there's some questions in the Q&A. They are quite technical questions, so it's more they serve a right answer. But if there's no oral question, I will just give the floor to one by one. Maria, Christian, Attila, and maybe Tomislav, you will conclude. So what do you think would be the next step? So Maria in Germany, what we should look at for in terms of risk mitigation schemes?
Maybe to add on the aspect of a European-wide scheme, or what would be a way forward to really foster and help the development of geothermal on a European perspective is, of course, the topic of de-risking. But we believe there are at least two more aspects we should always take into consideration, which are regarding the permitting procedures, which is totally different in most of the countries. So this is also quite challenging if you want to compare the countries and to see how is it best to set up the project structure. And the other aspect is regarding the ownership of the geothermal resource, because this also differs between the countries. So if we do somehow manage to obtain or to reach a level of comparability between the European countries, and to really speak with one voice regarding the European Commission on how to get a interesting economic framework for the realization of geothermal projects. So this would be the de-risking, I think, would be one aspect of these three. So I think we should try to always think these aspects together and not only focus on one of these. I'm quite sure this would help the industry as a whole.
Yeah, indeed. Maria, really good remarks. We always the framework conditions are multiple, and financing is one part, and permitting is a big one. Data availability, as you mentioned, and ownership of a resource. Good, thank you, Maria. Attila, maybe coming back to you, it's also the question: what are today the project that you have in your basket in Hungary? We are mainly looking at district heating for cities. Now, you have more projects in agriculture? Do you have also some combined heat and power, or just pure power plant project in development?
Well, in case of district heating, when this new supporting system will be launched, the increase of the project will be started. There are more than 100, about 110 district heating systems are in Hungary, and only 13 is supplied by geothermal. And we would like minimum to triple this number. So 40, perhaps 50 systems we would like to support, to supplied by geothermal system. So this new project support system will support this objective. In the industrial and agricultural sector, there are many private companies who has to create decarbonization concept. So we create them a decarbonization study. And in Hungary, for example, the geothermal generally is the best part of this support of this concept. So inside the decarbonization, the geothermal energy is the most popular, and it will increase the number of the projects. And naturally, it will increase the drilled wells, and therefore we need the mitigation. I saw in a question and answer from Volodymyr Rabocsi a question what is the typical scope for well cost compensation? Well, the actual cost is supported, is compensated, and not only the drilling, but the drilling preparation and naturally the testing as well in our project. So I would like to reply for this question as well.
Thank you, Attila. Christian, you answered a lot of questions today, but there's still one pending question from myself regarding the market in France. Your scheme works really well for the typical district heating we have now, 10 to 20 megawatt thermal systems, doublet systems. We see in Europe, if you look at Vienna in Austria or Aarhus in Denmark, really large project, multi-wells, dozens of wells now for 1 megawatt. Do you think the same risk approach should be taken, and why in France is not developing this kind of large-scale project? You mute yourself and we can hear you.
First, it's depending the size of the cities and the size of the district heating system. For sure, in Denmark, it's really a special case. Maybe Vienna also. But anyway, I believe it's not a question of size because, for example, the Swiss guys they are trying to establish a new fund, and finally, if you look at the district heating system in Switzerland at the moment, the medium size is something necessitating to produce in between 20 and 30,000 megawatt hour. So you mentioned the 30, so maybe you see for Switzerland it's a little bit smaller. I suspect in Germany that will be higher. In France, the average in a normal big city is something like 50 to 60,000. So I believe there is a need to adapt to all those different systems. But for sure, the advantage of those big district heating network is that you have the risk drilling the first doublet, for example, in the big Copenhagen and in Aarhus, for example. You are drilling the first, and I would say the second will be easier, the third will be easier, etc. And the risk will diminish step by step. I'm not so sure that will be the same in Vienna, because the Vienna basin, regarding the geological condition, is something even very well known, not so easy, with a lot of faults, etc. But we are talking now about geology. No, I think really the big advantage of geothermal is that you can, if, for example, in Hungary, you address to a small city, you can drill the well not too deep, as Attila mentioned. Maybe 1.5 kilometers, it's enough to find a resource. And if you want to, and to conclude, because I don't want to be too long, to conclude at the moment, following Paul Ramsack from EBN in the Netherlands, we know that the elephant, the energy elephant in Europe at the moment is heating, representing in the country of the northern part of Europe, heating is more than 50% of the final energy consumption. So everybody is focusing on heating. And I believe the things we describe in Germany, in France, in Hungary, those funds, if Brussels can extend that to the whole European Union, that will be perfect. But maybe we have to disclose heating and electricity. They are not the same market. Alejandro talk about that too. So I believe maybe we have to focus on heating in a certain way and to establish something dedicated to electricity, because the product is not the same, the cost of the product is not the same, the risk is not the same, but the big advantage of producing electricity with geothermal is a full year production and also the possibility to transport it. And I will conclude on that, but okay, we can talk a lot.
Indeed, it will be maybe for another webinar. thank you, Maria, Attila, and Christian for this panel discussion roundtable, and I give the floor back to Julia and Tomislav to conclude the webinar.
Great, thank you. Tomislav, would you like to say something to conclude this webinar?
Yes, thank you, Julia. It was really an excellent discussion, and as we saw, there are many obstacles in front of us, but also we saw that there are many good solutions present in the countries of the presenters. So the GreetGeo project will take this into account, and these inputs are going to be very valuable in shaping the effective de-risking solutions for each region individually. So, and as we saw really high amount of attendance, we see that this topic is really of high interest. And I'm thanking you all for your enrollment and for your attendancing, and really looking forward to the future workshops and webinars that hopefully you will attend.